Jeffrey Deaver has sold more than 50 million books and was recently named a Grand Master by the Mystery Writers of America. A master of suspense and surprise twists, Deaver relishes in adding them into his novels.
It's a moment of inspiration, and I can't explain where it comes from. I have a suspicion that it may be because I find myself, this isn't a compliment, this is simply the way I am. I find myself naturally funny. I like humor, and humor is about the unexpected. And I'm continually looking for that punchline in the course of a conversation, just to, like we're sitting here talking, something funny may occur to me, something based on what you said, and I'll throw it out, a one-liner kind of thing. And that's inspiration. And I think that may be where the twists in my books come from as well. Just seeing something from an alternative point of view, wow, that's a good twist, and in it goes. And I mean, if your viewers haven't read me yet, and they want to pick up a book, they'll be surprised. There are 5 or 6 big twists throughout the book, and then a big surprise ending. And after that, there's another surprise ending. And following that, a big surprise ending. Because when the book seems to end, there'll be 40 more pages. And readers think, what on earth is this? Well, that's a big surprise. You don't read my book to fall asleep. And that's my whole point.
This love of shocking the reader can lead to some misunderstandings with his fans.
I did a conference a few years ago, and a woman came up to me afterwards and said, I'm disappointed, Mr. Deaver. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, why is that? She said, you're nice. You're funny. My presentations are humorous. And I never read from the book. My job is to write the book. The readers read the book. So I didn't do that. And I do kind of a stand-up. It's not a routine, but it's about writing that's funny. And she said, I wanted you to be dark and ominous. And I was thinking, should I come out with a cape on? And I thought, well, that's kind of who I am. And she was sort of kidding, but not really kidding. And I have to say that the concept of separating the book from the author is one that I feel strongly about. Now, there's we think about some instances of some stars who have misbehaved. With regard to that, well, that kind of can taint the book or the movie for me. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about their lives as human beings. They might be lawyers. I was a lawyer writing books for a while. Then I'm a full-time novelist now. I really separate the two. And when 5 o'clock comes, I may have been writing about a terrible serial killer all day. 5 o'clock, it's time for beer. I sit down with my dogs and a Budweiser, and I just don't think about it. I move out of the story entirely.
The success of his novels has led to several feature films and TV series being made based on his works, including The Bone Collector, A Maiden's Grave, and The Devil's Teardrop. Does it ever frustrate him when they deviate from his work?
For me, it's paid advertising. End of story. I have no ability to make films. I've written some scripts. They will be circulated. But, the concept of doing a project by committee, cinematography, sound, music, the actors, of course, set design, those are all things that are completely out of my ken, so I don't even think about that. So I respect when something's done. I have no interest in, being on the set. If I do a script, I want to sell it, and then somebody else will take it from there. Showrunner will take it from there. The great writer Donald Westlake, no longer with us, sadly, was interviewed by a reporter who was in his office. And Westlake had just had a very bad movie made of one of his books. And the interviewer said, Mr. Westlake, what do you feel about what the movies have done to your books? And he was a big theatrical kind of guy, and Westlake was. And he said, what? And he spun around in his chair and he looked up at his shelves and he said, whoa, you scared me. The movies haven't done anything to my books. They're still there. And that's my attitude. But the one I'm really looking forward to is called Tracker. And that is a TV show, CBS TV show, based on my character Colter Shaw. And it airs right after the Super Bowl. So we're going to get a good audience there. And I'm going to be very interested in the feedback from that. People will say, the game was good, but your book was better. We'll see.
When he writes, Deaver begins with a solid outline to work from. But sometimes nature gets in the way of his writing.
They, well, I'm very lucky in the sense that I'm able to write anywhere, anytime. Of course, if there's some like major disruption, that's a little different. I live I live in the East Coast in two places, both of which get hurricanes. And so there have been times when this is not a psychic problem, this is a practical problem. I have been forced to go out to my car, turn the engine on, and I have an adapter for my computer that will provide power for the computer. And I've written in the car while the wind's, there are not trees falling on me. It's not that, but there's no power in the house and I have to write. So I'll go out and plug in and get that done, and have to drink cold coffee, nothing to heat that up. So I want a car manufacturer to make a microwave in the car to heat up coffee. Well, in answer to your question, I do kind of separate the writing from the process of writing, and I can kind of go along and do it whenever and wherever I need to.
Does Deaver worry about artificial intelligence taking away work from writers like himself?
Well, I've been quite interested in the concept of artificial intelligence when it comes to the creative process. And one of the things I'll say, and when I do my presentation, I tell my students this, that while large language models have revolutionized the field of natural language processing and generated impressive results in various applications, there are risks associated with their use in creating fiction. First, the models lack true understanding and consciousness as they are trained on vast amounts of data without genuine comprehension. Second, the reliance on large language models may lead to a homogenization of a literary voice as writers become overly reliant on pre-existing patterns and structures generated by the models, stifling originality and unique storytelling. And additionally, there are ethical concerns of potential biases embedded within the training data. Every word I just read to you was written by ChatGPT in response to my question, can you write fiction? So that kind of answers your question right there. Even the language models themselves have their doubts about writing fiction.
BCPL met up with Deaver at the Creatures, Crimes, and Creativity Con, an annual gathering of writers and lovers of reading. The 2024 con will feature keynote speeches from best-selling authors Lee Goldberg, Jack Campbell, and Carolyn Ives Gilman, among others. Details can be found on their website, creaturescrimesandcreativity.com.